Day is too important for just one day, so we're showing military appreciation all month long. Service members and veterans get a Bennett Chevy for up to an extra $1,000 off our incredibly low prices. New Chevys at GM supplier employee prices. Plus, you keep all the rebates. While most dealers give you either a discount or some rebates, Bennett gives you the real GM supplier employee price and all the rebates, saving you up to 10% off your new Chevy. And there's available 1.9% financing. And we'll pay you an astounding $10,000 minimum for any junk box you can get onto our lot. That's $10,000 for your worst trade towards any pre-owned in stock. Imagine how much we'll pay for good trades. And our non-commissioned sales team isn't paid more when you spend more. They're not paid on how much you spend at all. They're rewarded based on your satisfaction. Together, let's drive at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennick.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio. Here's Josh Hennick.
Josh Hennick hanging out with you on a Monday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Yes, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea City, live here in the Ocean Casino Resort of Atlantic City Studios. Well, we got a lot to get to and a little bit of time to get to it this hour. Austin Krell, our Sixers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com. He will join me in about 20 minutes because I want to get into. He brought up a couple of very interesting points that coincide with some audio that went down this weekend from a couple of former Sixers about Philadelphia and playing in Philadelphia. We're going to get to that this hour. Plus, Phillies. Interesting weekend. I told you they had to win 2 out of 3, but I think some people might look at the third game, yesterday's game, when they lost in extra innings as maybe a bit of a downer, maybe not. No Realmuto, no Schwarber for the second straight day. Both of them are not in the lineup against the Mets. Another left-handed pitcher today. So we're going to see how this all plays out for the Phillies. I told you guys on Friday that I was curious to see how the Phillies handle this stretch of games. Not because the Marlins and the Mets are not beatable, but because of the fact you're dealing with two teams that are going to throw a lot of left-handers at you. And when you have the lefty going out there to throw against you, what you're doing is that you're neutralizing the strength of the Phillies lineup, which is their left-handed hitters. Now, Schwarber's already not healthy, so you give him 2 games, not against left-handed pitcher, and he's got some back issues. It kind of neutralizes, right? It kind of offsets. But the Realmuto situation is definitely, we're going to keep an eye on that. And a lot of other things with the Phillies, but we'll get to a little bit later this hour. I want to get to the Sixers stuff before Austin Krell comes on, because as I was on with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash in the 2 o'clock hour talking about how, and I want to bring it back to all of you listening at 6 o'clock, how this weekend in the NBA, you saw again how important it is to have a good team, not just a couple of good players. It is no small thing that the Nuggets are back in this series. And it wasn't just because of Jokic. The Pacers got back in their series. And it certainly wasn't just Halliburton and Siakam. The Mavs are making this a series against OKC, leading 2-1. And it's not just because of Luka. It's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th guy on these teams that are stepping up. Even Anthony Edwards was impressed with the game that Aaron Gordon had yesterday. Gordon only missed 1 shot the entire game, had an incredible game for the Nuggets. It's the 3rd and 4th and 5th guys that are going to help you win games. So for the Sixers, we now know, thanks to Austin Krell's research, getting it from him because he did the research with StatMuse, that Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, if you combine their points and assists combined to account for 87% of the team's scoring in the past series between assists and points. So for me, I think that's a clear sign that the Sixers have to invest in a certain type of player. Now, Daryl Morey, at his end of year press conference, explained exactly who that player is. What are the Sixers needing the most from a player to add to Embiid and Maxey tandem?
The biggest need is, not at their position, someone at the wing who can play and deliver at a high level in the playoffs. That's the biggest need, yeah.
The problem is, as we discussed earlier on the Sports Bash, Josh and I hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN. We discussed it earlier today. The problem with Daryl Morey's statement is that there's not a lot of obvious players that fit that criteria right now. Because the three biggest names being floated out there, all three of them have major flaws. By the way, Donovan Mitchell ruled out for tonight's game. He's a guy who's been rumored a lot for years to be traded. And now he's going to miss one of the most important games of his season. He has actually scored 25 points in 6 straight playoff games. So he is out for the Cavs tonight. So all of you out there, you might want to wager heavy on the Celtics to win the game tonight. But back to the Sixers. So if the big three names out there are Paul George, Jimmy Butler, and Brandon Ingram, I don't know if any of those guys truly fit the criteria for Daryl Morey. Paul George, Jimmy Butler have missed multiple games in the last few years due to injuries. Brandon Ingram has come up small in the postseason. Jimmy Butler has been a big postseason performer, but has not been healthy for the most part, off and on for the last few years. And Paul George, well, he's come up small. He's come up so small that two former 76ers talked about PG-13 this weekend on the Point Forward podcast. Evan Turner decided to rip Paul George. Take a listen.
PG has a history of not showing up, which is an understatement. Just the other day, and I never met a human that will let a media rumor drive his like energy or personality. Like somebody was like, "I heard he going to Philly," and he's like, "You know what? I'm going to Philly, G." Like I could bet any guarantee. He's like, "You know what? I started looking at real estate in Philly."
Now, for some context, Evan Turner did play half a season with Paul George, so he does have some familiarity with him. And Andre Iguodala never played with Paul George, but he played against him numerous times in the regular season and postseason. So both men have familiarity with him. So they both are aware and confirm the narrative that Paul George is just not a great postseason performer. Now, people have different reasons for not being happy with Paul George postseason. Part of it has to do with what happened in the bubble when the NBA was down their bubble in Orlando, how Paul George reportedly wanted out of the bubble so badly he basically tanked for the Clippers in the postseason. That was part of the reason why Doc Rivers got fired by the Clippers. When you look at, though, Paul George, historically, he has been a very inconsistent postseason performer since he left Indiana. Now, you heard the other part, Evan Turner said that Paul George is easily influenced and manipulated by the media. That is the worst person to come to Philadelphia. You don't want a guy who is going to be that easily swayed, because guess what? If you got thin skin and if you are easily swayed emotionally and mentally, Philadelphia is not the city for you. Evan Turner doesn't stop there. He goes on to rip more into Paul George on the Point Forward podcast.
Do you know how soft that team gonna be if him and Embiid go together? They'll probably be one of the most disappointing, like just unbelievable, talented. It'll probably be the most skilled duo ever since Kobe and Shaq. And then it's probably be them. Embiid to be hurt and PG gonna be Paul though.
PG-13 gonna be Paul. Basically, that you can't depend on a team. What they're saying, Iguodala agreeing with him, that you're not going to depend on a team that has Paul George and Joel Embiid in the postseason. Now, some of you out there listening on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, you may be saying, yeah, but they got Maxey. And that's true. But that's also what the Clippers thought. The Clippers thought, we don't need Paul George to be the big man in the postseason because we have Kawhi Leonard, and now we've added James Harden. Well, Kawhi Leonard got hurt. PG-13 was inconsistent, and James Harden was basically like last year, and he was inconsistent. So how am I supposed to be all in on this idea that PG-13 is going to come and help the Sixers? Turner and Iguodala more on why it would be difficult for Paul George to succeed in Philadelphia.
That would be a tough scenario in Philadelphia, just based on how the noise, seeps through the culture of the sports franchises.
And you know how tough you got to be to play. So tell me one more thing. Before people go there, you have to be very tough to play there. So you tell me, anybody getting traded there, would it be like? Could they handle it? If you know what I know,
two guys who were top picks: Evan Turner, 2nd overall; Iguodala, I remember correctly, was 6th or 8th overall. I'm gonna look it up, but two guys who know what it's like to play in Philadelphia, know the pressure, know the expectation, know the whole 9 yards. Iguodala was 9th overall. My bad. So, and they're saying, look, we know how tough it is to play in Philadelphia. And you think that guy's coming to Philly to be successful? And I think that's the key. Another reason why I have zero interest in Paul George. Now, we'll get into more of what Iguodala and Turner said about the playing in Philadelphia a little bit later, but I want to get to what you guys have to say. Your reaction to Evan Turner and Paul George's comments, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I know the other news coming out today is about the NFL schedule, and there's two distinct, interesting points. I'll get to Jeff from Ocean City's question in just a bit. But the note that came out earlier today that the 4 teams that will play on December 21st will also be the 4 teams that play on December 25th. And that December 21st will be a part of week 16 and December 25th will be the start of week 17. This is huge because there are going to be 2 major plot points as we progress through the 2024 NFL season. Number 1, if you are one of the 4 teams that plays on that Saturday, that means that you have to play on Christmas Day on a Wednesday. And we know historically teams have struggled to play on Wednesdays in the past when it's been either snow delay games, whether it's been COVID delay games. It has been a messy situation. But this is the first time it's going to be a scheduled game on a Wednesday for Christmas Day. So you are going to have to look at some of those teams and realize that maybe the best players, they might have their best games on Christmas. Veterans on Christmas, right? They might be the difference. A young team playing on Christmas Day, they might be a losing proposition. That brings us to the other point of the conversation. You have 4 teams playing to start week 17 on Christmas Day on a Wednesday. That means before we even get to the weekend games after Christmas Day, before we even get to any games that will be played not just on that Sunday, The Sunday being the 29th. Of the NFL schedules games for the 28th. Is there a Thursday football game on the 26th? What's going on with all these scenarios, right? What if a team gets eliminated from the postseason on Christmas Day? How does it impact what people do the rest of Week 17? A lot of moving parts we got to keep an eye on with the NFL schedule. All right. We'll check back at the text board in just a little bit later this hour. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. Seattle, by the way, speaking of Seattle City, don't forget this week's Seize the Deal opportunity for you. You can get two $25 gift certificates to Zia Nicolo Pizza in Seattle City for just $25 when the deal goes live this Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. The best pizza in Seattle. You can get two $25 gift certificates for the cost of just one at seizethedeal.com starting this Friday at 9 a.m. Coming up next, Austin Kreller, Sixers Insider from 97.3 ESPN.com, will give us full clarity on the latest with the Sixers in the offseason and the NBA postseason. Coming up next on 97.3 ESPN, Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Monday night.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. with Unsportsmanlike on 97.3 ESPN with Evan Cohen, Super Bowl champion Chris Canty, and Michelle Small.
Can't wake up without it.
Brought to you by the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales. At Bennett Chevy, Memorial Day is too important for just one day. So we're showing military appreciation all month long. Service members and veterans get a Bennett Chevy for up to an extra $1,000 off our incredibly low prices. New Chevys at GM supplier employee prices. Plus, you keep all the rebates. While most dealers give you either a discount or some rebates, Bennett gives you the real GM supplier employee price and all the rebates, saving you up to 10% off your new Chevy. And there's available 1.9% financing. And we'll pay you an astounding $10,000 minimum for any junk box you can get onto our lot. That's $10,000 for your worst trade towards any pre-owned in stock. Imagine how much we'll pay for good trades. And our non-commissioned sales team isn't paid more when you spend more. They're not paid on how much you spend at all. They're rewarded based on your satisfaction. Together, let's drive at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plan starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
It's time to treat your home and your feet to new carpet. The Home Depot has an offer for you. For a limited time, you can get 10% off select Home Decorators Collection carpet, and installation by licensed providers is included. Offer valid May 9th through May 26, 2024. Receive 10% off select Home Decorators Collection special order carpet and installation. Installation included with qualifying purchase. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
Powered by the all-new BetParks New Jersey Casino and Sportsbook app. BetParks.com. This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
The Phillies move up in the power rankings. Good Monday afternoon. I'm Nick Earnshaw with your South Jersey Sports Center. The Phillies move up in MLB.com's power rankings to number 2, right behind the Baltimore Orioles, who are at the top of the list. Tonight, the Phillies will be taking on the New York Mets in the first game of 4 straight versus New York, with the first 2 games at Citi Field. According to Eagles kicker Jake Elliott, recently retired Eagles center Jason Kelce has been in the Eagles building nearly every day since his retirement. Elliott, in an interview with NFL Network, said, quote, "I know Kelce has been in the building almost every day already," end quote. However, there's been no indication of a potential return for the former Eagles center. For more Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, and Flyers, download our free mobile app. Your forecast is next.
New Jersey voters, there are 3 ways to vote in the primary election. Vote in person on Election Day, Tuesday, June 4th. Vote early in person starting Wednesday, May 29th. Or apply for, complete, and return a mail-in ballot. Details at vote.nj.gov.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines.
Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. B21.
From the Towns for New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. We're now less than 24 hours away from the arrival of our next batch of soggy weather. A quiet night tonight, increasing clouds and cool temperatures, low of 54. We'll catch peaks of sun early tomorrow with a high of 73. Then showers may creep in around midday. Periods of rain develop tomorrow afternoon and evening. That wet weather will last through much of Wednesday as well. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at Zio Nicomo Pizza in Sea Isle City for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
As promised, Austin Krell, our Sixers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com, his latest article detailing his 10 takeaways after the Sixers-Knicks series is done and over with. Joins us right now on 97.3 ESPN. Austin, welcome in. How you doing today?
How's it going, Josh?
Doing pretty good. So I had to get you on because I enjoyed reading your article, because your article fell in line with some of my thoughts from the weekend. Because one of my biggest takeaways from the NBA postseason weekend was, man, it's the third guy, it's the fourth guy, it's the fifth guy that's helping these teams win. I mean, you could argue TJ McConnell might be one of the most important players in that Pacers-Knicks series, right? You look at the Knicks, they're just running out of bodies, right? You know, you look at the Mavs, it's not just Luka and Kyrie, it's PJ Washington, for goodness sake. You know, so by the way, Aaron Gordon, amazing game yesterday for the Nuggets. So, you know, you look around the playoffs, it drives home the point even more, because you put the stat in your article that Embiid and Maxey accounted for points and assists 87% of the team's scoring. I mean, that is just not sustainable, Austin.
Well, I think it speaks to, like, number one, we have to take that relative to, like, their usage, each of the players' usages, and their usages were slightly below Jalen Brunson's, who is like the Knicks go as Brunson goes, right? As we've come to learn, and like their usages were slightly below his, which makes sense given that given that without Randall, he was the unquestioned, unequivocal number one on offense. But like the production was relatively close given the discrepancy in usage. So they basically, the Sixers, I think people are going to remember the series how they want to, but I'll remember it as like they squeezed every bit of production basically they possibly could out of Joel and Tyrese. And Joel didn't have, he had the bad game. He had I would say that it was a very up and down game 5. Others might call it flat out bad. I would say that he salvaged it in the end, the game 5. And he didn't have great fourth quarters by any stretch of the imagination, or even I would say good fourth quarters in the series. But I mean, as I said in the article, like one of the things that is hard for me to pinpoint from remembering that series and looking at like some of the games, that other teams have played, like it's very easy in past years to say, okay, the Sixers lost in 4, they lost in 5, they lost in 6, and they got embarrassed in many losses in series, like the Heat series where they got embarrassed in back-to-back games and to lose in 6. Celtic series last year, they get embarrassed in game 7. When you have things to be ashamed of and it's that big of a discrepancy in the end, there are a lot of things that you can really point to and be like, yeah, this was the major hole. It's a 1-point difference in the series. Like we could sit here for hours and argue about the different things that caused them to lose that series. Ultimately, it was decided by 1 point. I don't think there's really a whole lot to be ashamed of, regardless of what you think of the Knicks, whether they're actually that good. I think they have excellent synergy as a team, even if their top end talent isn't up there with the best of the teams. They're still a very very systematic team that gets the best out of each other, and I think that matters. But I look at generally there's just nothing that you can really like be ashamed of, because no matter all the different things that we could point at, it was still only a 1-point difference. They still lost in 6 games. Every game, the biggest difference in the series was an 11-point game. Like, it was that close throughout. So sometimes, like I said in the story, sometimes there's nothing that you just sit back and you just say, okay, you shrug and you move on, and that's it. Like, sports doesn't have to be these grandiose hot takes that everyone likes to have.
Sure, but like you said, if the difference is 1 point, then doesn't that suggest, and if you disagree, that's fine, but doesn't that suggest that if you had anyone competent next to Embiid and Maxey, like anybody, the whole thing out there is like Paul George or Jimmy Butler or Brandon Ingram, right? But it's like, it doesn't have to be those guys. It could have been, someone brought to me earlier today, Malik Monk. Like, if Malik Monk goes out there and averages 12 points a game in the series, like, you win the series. Like, it doesn't have to be even a star player next to these guys.
Yeah, no, I totally agree 100%. Like, if they have any sort of consistent semblance of a supporting cast, and it's like one guy throughout the series giving them a consistent bump, they probably win the series. If Tobias Harris doesn't score 0 points in his ostensibly last game as a Sixer, they probably win Game 6. If they get anything out of anyone besides Tyrese and Joel in Game 2, they probably win Game 2 going away. Same thing for Game 1, maybe same thing for Game 4. Like, the whole series, to me, like, as you demonstrated, as you said from the stat that I pulled, the entire series was like Joel and Tyrese banging on the walls, begging for someone to just step up.
Anybody.
And they got some help in some games, but it wasn't the consistent, I know from night to night, this is what I'm going to get.
Austin Crowler, Sixers Insider from 97.3 ESPN.com. Check out his latest article about his 10 takeaways from the Sixers and Knicks series. You mentioned about the Knicks and about their synergy. And it's like, you mentioned in the article as well, like, if the Sixers would have beaten the Knicks, what that would have looked like against the Pacers. And I don't know if they would have beaten the Pacers necessarily, but I do think that the Sixers would have been fascinating because, the Knicks don't have somebody to challenge Miles Turner. Miles Turner would have his hands full with Embiid, right? You look at a guy like Maxey. How does a guy like Maxey's speed change? I forget who it was, but I think it was Tim Legler who said that Maxey has the type of speed that you can't game plan for. So, like, what would the Sixers look like against the Pacers for you?
So I think one of my concerns would be Joel's knee, because Miles Turner, unlike Hartenstein, unlike Mitchell Robinson, who lo and behold is now out for 6 to 8 weeks, like Precious Achiuwa, Miles Turner is not, or is a stretch big, unlike those guys, right? So
Right.
that would in theory have forced Joel to step out away from the rim to contest on the perimeter, and made him use more of his legs to attack, to close out on shooters, to how does he stunt and recover against dribble penetration and whatnot. So that would have been a test for his health. I will say that the Pacers are incredibly lucky that they get to play a series that is missing OG Anunoby for multiple games, that is missing Mitchell Robinson for 2 games. Multiple games, I should say. Where was that injury luck for Philadelphia? That would have been nice for the Sixers to face a Knicks team that didn't have the core backup big for multiple games and a core starter for multiple games. But it is what it is there. I tend to think that the Pacers, and if for those who have watched the series, you can tell, like, the Pacers the Knicks are getting to the basket with relative ease. And I think that would have played well to Tyrese's skills and, maybe to Kelly's skills. I don't think the Pacers are a adept defensive team by most stretches of the imagination. So I think Tyrese Halliburton is clearly hindered. So I think, it would have been an easier matchup. I mean, both teams were playing, I think, for the right to go to the Eastern Conference Finals in the first round, the Sixers versus Knicks. To Tim Legler's point, as I said in the story, which was more of a novel, if you will, than an article. But I think one of the big things that Tyrese Maxey has to go into this offseason looking at, and perhaps if you get a guy like Jimmy Butler, it helps with this, really learning and understanding how to get the most out of his out of the changing speeds, because that's what gets you to the free throw line. Jalen Brunson, we can talk about all night long about his foul baiting and his grifting and whatnot, which, by the way, Joel Embiid is very good at too. Jalen Brunson has mastered the art of attacking off the dribble, getting around his assigned defender, and then kind of pulling up and pulling strings like a puppet and getting that contact on the backside and then getting the continuation from there. He's mastered that. Whether you think it's disgusting in basketball, whether you think it's fair or not, whether you think it's BS, he's mastered the rules and are using it to his advantage, and that's what we would want. That's what anyone would want the Sixers to do. That's what other guards do around the league. So I can't really get mad at Jalen Brunson for that. I think he's very good at it. But that is something that I think the difference between Tyrese Maxey and Jalen Brunson is when Brunson does not have great lift, when his shots from the perimeter are not falling, he can get to the mid range. He can get himself to the free throw line. When Tyrese Maxey's outside shot is not falling, where is he getting those extra points from? Where is he slowing down the game and picking himself up and producing in other ways from? That's where the free throws have to come in. And, his 3 of his top 4 scoring games of the season got to the line at least a dozen times, I think it was. That's telling. When the 3 ball isn't falling, you got to find other ways to be effective as a scorer if you're not going to be a true point guard. And I think that's where if you're in the camp of Jimmy Butler back to the Sixers, that's one of the sneaky benefits. Jimmy Butler is an excellent foul baiter, excellent foul drawer. That's something that Tyrese can learn from a guy who is not a big man like Joel.
You mentioned about Jimmy Butler. Obviously, he's one of the big 3 names that have been put out there. Let me first get your perspective before we get to the other 2 names. What do you say to people who keep bringing up that the problem with Butler is he's going to want a contract extension and his injury history?
I'll have more on this in an article at a later date for sure, but I don't disagree. I think there are warts to all of the candidates, as we've said before. I think the big thing that makes Jimmy Butler so appealing and attractive to the Sixers, to fans of the Sixers, whatnot, is his cachet as a playoff player and as a playoff riser. If you do not believe in Joel as a playoff riser, if you have questions about Tyrese Maxey, given his size and whatnot, Jimmy Butler, with his veteran experience, with his stardom, with his foul drawing ability, with just his pure will to bend playoff games, he will be that guy who will win you hard playoff games against good teams. He has a resume full of them at this point with Miami. That might be the biggest reason to want Jimmy Butler if there are no others. It's that if you're looking for a guy who you can trust in the playoffs when it's gut check time, it is him.
What was your take on from the Point Forward podcast when Evan Turner and Andre Iguodala basically eviscerated Paul George, saying basically he couldn't survive in Philadelphia?
I would say there's too many podcasts out there with people who people who maybe are not in positions to talk about players of that caliber. Evan Turner was a fine role player, drafted number 2 overall to the Sixers. That was a big swing and miss for the Sixers, which was my own way of digging at Evan Turner because he was never anything special in the NBA.
No, he wasn't.
And as soon as he got traded to a contender, he was benched. So I'm not going to put too much stock into what he says. I don't know what Andre Iguodala had to say, but he's someone who I have a lot more respect for as a former player. A lot of these guys talk just to talk. They were probably trying to audition for the television shows that get all the hype these days. I tend to think that, and like, listen, it's very easy for guys who have never had big playoff moments to sit here and be like, Paul George is this and this guy is that and yada, yada, yada.
Well, I will say that Iguodala was agreeing with Evan Turner's side. Maybe the aggregators didn't put that out there properly. But I played the audio earlier. Like, Iguodala's agreeing with Turner, saying how Paul George is soft, his mentality is soft, he's easily influenced and manipulated. And, Iguodala said, look, not everyone can play in Philadelphia. He says you have to be a certain type of mentality and personality. And him in turn were basically saying that, if you listen to the whole thing, that Paul George doesn't have the mentality to handle Philadelphia. And, this is part of what this. I'll play it for you real quick. What Iguodala and Turner were saying.
That would be a tough scenario in Philadelphia, just based on how the noise, seeps through the culture of the sports franchises.
And you know how tough you got to be to play. So tell me one more thing. Before people go there, you have to be very tough to play there. So you tell me, anybody getting traded there, would it be like, could they handle it? If you know what I know.
So, I mean, and they went on to say more than that. Iguodala went this whole thing about how, he described some of the weird stuff that he went through in Philadelphia. But I mean, it's interesting I agree with you. I 100% agree. There's a billion podcasts and it's like everyone's got an opinion now. But it is interesting to hear these guys say what has already been theorized by other people about Paul George. And it's just it's just weird to hear guys like Iguodala saying, yep, that's true. Yep. And it's like, this is the guy who won championships. Like, he was a finals MVP award winner. And he's like, oh, yep, Paul George, he's soft. Like, it's just such a weird thing to me.
So I would ask the Phoenix Suns how they feel about Paul George, who him and Reggie Jackson lit them up in the playoffs in 2021 when the Suns and Clippers met in the conference finals. I would ask the Utah Jazz how they feel about that statement. I would ask the LeBron Heat back in the mid 2010s when they matched up with the Pacers and those games. I think the bottom line is that when you play as many playoff games as Paul George had in his career, it's human nature to have some lows and some highs. They probably know Paul. I'm sure they almost certainly know Paul George better than I do. Having said that, I know of many examples that are not talked about publicly of players who will say things on TV, or former players who will say things on TV,
sure,
on podcasts, and then they will be buddy with that player behind closed doors. So you'll have to excuse me if I question whether it's genuine what they're saying, whether it's just to drum up some controversy or whatnot. I think Paul George, the recency bias would say he has not had great playoffs, especially with the Clippers. I do think that there is context missing in that conversation, where you're not talking about Paul George being a 1A or 1B. You're talking about him being a 3, at the third option on the team behind Joel, behind Tyrese. And really what you are saying is if you're questioning whether Paul George is mentally strong enough, quote unquote, to be the third option, what you're really questioning is whether your 1 and 2 are good enough, or whether your 1 and 2 have that mental ability to be those guys. And I think a lot of what we saw in this first round against the Knicks proved that Joel's strides he made as a passer helped translate some of his game to the playoffs. Tyrese did literally he had a 46-point night in Madison Square Garden to save off elimination. He had a 35-point near triple double in game 2. Like, Tyrese passed every test you could have thrown at him. So I don't know why you wouldn't. I don't know why you would look at least Tyrese, look at what Joel did in the playoffs, and say, if those two are healthy and good to go, I trust them. Who is the third best option? And comparing Paul George's career as a 1A, 1B with Pacers and Oklahoma City and LA is different than what his role would be here.
Couple more for Austin Crawler, Sixers Insider from 97.3 ESPN.com before I let him go. The third guy, obviously, is Brandon Ingram. Mark Stein reporting that Philadelphia is one of the teams that would be interested in him. Should Philadelphia be interested in Brandon Ingram?
No. All due respect to Brandon Ingram, he's a very talented player. I look at his shot profile, and he takes a lot of mid-range jumpers, does not get to the rim a ton, does not get to the foul line a ton. His release point on his jumper is so high that it should translate as he gets older. He will make a habit out of making tough contested jumpers, but that is not an efficient course of action for continuing forward. You can't rely on a third option to be like, okay, go make like 6 contested jumpers to will this team to victory. Like I just don't think that's a viable strategy. He's not a very willing 3-point shooter. I don't think he's Tobias Harris. I think he's a lot better than Tobias Harris, but in terms of fit next to Joel and Tyrese, I look at him and I'm like, there's too many overlapping things with what I just saw for 5 years.
Yeah, see, my big problem with Ingram is he doesn't do the one thing that I'm hoping the Sixers address this offseason. You need to get a rebounder next to Joel. Like, you got to stop expecting him to go out there and get you 12 rebounds. And I know it's not the best analogy, but you go back to the Detroit Pistons with Bill Laimbeer. He took a lot of outside shots, right? You look at guys like Arvinas Sabonis. Like, he had his best years with Rasheed Wallace next to him. Like, the dudes who are not traditional down low big men in this league, Dirk Nowitzki, right? What was his best years with guys like Eric Dampier and Tyson Chandler? Like, if you looked at Embiid more like an all-around player and not just a center, I want a dude who can go throw some elbows down there. And I'm not saying I need Mike Scott necessarily, but I just need somebody like someone brought up Nick Claxton earlier. Like, if you're telling me the Sixers lineup next year was Embiid, Claxton, Embiid, Claxton, Maxey, Oubre, and fill in the blank wing, I wouldn't hate that for sure.
I think anyone that they go after is going to be a wing-like player, and I don't think they're going to invest assets in guys that are largely suited to play behind Joel instead of next to Joel. And so I think Nick Claxton is a tough fit there. Perhaps you are somebody who thinks it's Lauri Markkanen, and I have my own concerns there, although I think skill set wise it'd be an excellent fit. I actually think, honestly, if you told me that Mikal Bridges was not available or was not gettable, if you told me that these guys in their late 20s were not available, whatever, and it was Jimmy Butler, it was older veteran stars. The guy who I would look at as your best option for the next couple of years is somebody that is known to be all-world talent, but everyone is talking about him. Like, if people look at LeBron for the talent, they look at him for the GM, the coach, the guy who
coach killer.
Right. And gets to a situation and changes everything around because it's not to his liking. And they look at like Bronny James getting drafted, whatnot. I look at LeBron as the perfect fit for this team for a couple of reasons. One is he is going to be 38, 40. Well, people say he's too old, yada, yada, yada. That guy's still playing at like a top 20 level. It's pretty indisputable at this point.
Sure.
But that also means when he's playing in his late 30s that he's theoretically not going to want a 4-year max deal. So you're already cutting your risk down because you're not committed to him for more than, let's say 2 or 3 years, whatever it is. And that puts you right at the end of Joel's prime. Second thing is there a more malleable or a more agreeable set of skills that a player has of all these wing options we discuss than LeBron James? Somebody who is as well-rounded across the board, rebounder, passer, playmaker. When he commits himself, he can be an excellent defensive player. He's gotten better as a shooter, scorer, out of here, whatever. Forget about all that for a second. You ask him to play a role, you ask him to do anything in any game situation, and he can play like 4 different positions. He can do all of the little things at a very high level that you want out of all of these stars. He's one of the best shape-shifting stars in the league still. And so I look at like what the Sixers might need on any given night, and it's like, to me, it's obviously LeBron is the best fit. And we'll see if that's even a possibility, right. Whether he just goes back to LA. But when people look at LeBron, I wouldn't look at it as like the King James comes to Philly or the scoring prowess or, he's a franchise killer or whatever. I look at it as there is no better star right now whose game is more flexible in terms of applying multiple skill sets than LeBron.
Well, he's already playing the mind game because he's at the Cavs Celtics game tonight. So
maybe it's going to be LeBoston pretty soon.
Well, no, I don't think it would be that. It's the idea that, he's back at the Cavs game and, the whole like, what if the Cavs draft Bronny and like then LeBron can come home again and
Yeah.
because apparently I don't know if anybody knew this, but apparently I found out today LeBron still owns a couple houses in the Akron, Cleveland area. So
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys invest in real estate for, their own personal gain. They build a house and then they sell it to somebody, or maybe he just goes back there from time to time. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I think it's very common for star players to leave a situation, but keep a house because they want to come back or they want to invest in real estate. But
well,
actually,
they just like playing mind games like LeBron does. LeBron likes to push everybody's buttons.
There are reports that someone just saw LeBron at a local ShopRite in Ventnor. So, maybe he's coming to Philly.
Well, remember, before the Bronny got cleared for the combine, the original rumor out there, which was never confirmed, by the way, was that apparently the Bronny was like looking at transferring to Villanova. That was one of the rumors out there. And like that was never confirmed by anyone, basically. It was just rampantly speculative internet blah. I can't curse on the radio, but
one of the pitfalls of social media is that anyone can take a random stock photo on the internet, create a profile, create a name, create a bio, and say, "Yeah, I'm the reporter who
I'm an insider."
Right, and Bronny James is transferring to Rowan University or
Rutgers.
UCLA. That's right, Rutgers. Yeah, Bronny's going to Rutgers, going to Villanova. So
he's gonna go play with Ron Harper's kid.
Right, and people will run with it because they want to desperately believe.
Right.
Now, like the Sixers have 2 picks in the draft, 16 and 41, I think it is. Could I see Daryl Morey like saying, "I'm gonna invest in the possibility of LeBron James being open to coming to Philly"? Why not take a flyer and draft Bronny? And then
if it's a second round pick, I don't mind it. Like if you're, let's be realistic. I forgot who put the stat out there, but like I think it was CBS Sports, and I might be miscrediting the wrong outlet, so forgive me. I do watch a lot of CBS Sports HQ, honestly. So, but the stat was out there that like the highest percentage of players who are busts of all the 4 sports is the NBA draft. Like the NBA draft has like the lowest percentage of like the first 2 round picks becoming pros. So like if the odds are against you finding a player anyway, then why not?
Well, I think so. I don't know how many rounds there are in hockey, but I think it's inherently more likely in the NBA that you just don't make it because there are so few. There are only 2 rounds.
Oh, there's like 8 rounds in hockey. It's ridiculous.
Right. There's only like
hockey's like baseball. You draft guys and like you never see them again.
Right. So like because there's so many picks in the other major drafts and they're compared to the NBA, it's inherently more likely that you just don't make it because the rosters are smaller. That many picks got to get cut. But I think number one, this is a poor draft. Everyone has been saying it. You already have like reports that like all the lottery picks, like there are various lottery picks that are ready for sale.
Yep.
But I mean, like Daryl Morey told us what the view of rookies are. It's that rookies don't really contribute ever. They have no chance. Second year, you might have a chance at a chance at a chance. Third year is when you usually hit, and that's if you're that's from top for the first round picks to guys that are drafted second round to undrafted free agents. So if the Sixers feel that way about second round picks and they feel that there's such little chance of them contributing and they're not going to trade the pick, your best investment might just be to draft Bronny 41st overall and say, well, this gives us a better chance at the end of LeBron's prime. Or at the end, sorry, his past his prime. End of Joel's prime, I should say. Yeah.
I was going to say LeBron is kind of still in his prime.
It's scary. Like he's 38, 39, 40, and he's like still like, are we sure this guy is not still in his prime?
Exactly. Before I let you go, because I'm way late for the break, but I got to ask you, just a selfish question altogether. So, 3 straight times I've seen you've had less facial hair every time. Is there's something going on here with that?
So my mom has been saying this too. I just decided after the exit interviews, I was like, you know what, it's just time to start fresh for the spring and the summer. So we're shaving fresh. I'm not going hairless. It's gonna grow back and let it grow back in. But I did think it was time to just even things out and
okay,
cut it dry. Don't worry, it's coming back.
Well, I mean, listen, you do with your facial hair what you want. I mean, I'm no person to judge. It's just, I mean, there's a whole story why I even have a goatee, which is not for this show today. It's maybe for a podcast conversation.
Oh, we're coming up for the break time, actually.
Right. But like, I notice like every time I've seen you, it's like beard, less beard, and today it's like I don't know what I don't know.
Well,
what you're
I'm
doing right
shaving my beard in hopes that the Sixers land their third star, and it gives me something to be in. It gives me something really interesting to cover next season. So,
okay.
Shaving for LeBron.
Shaving for LeBron. Now, are you intent on regrowing the beard, or are you someone who wants to experiment a little bit here?
I'll experiment a little bit. Might be some goatee season for me in the near future.
Okay.
Problem with me is this: my OCD will kick in, and I'll be like straight edging it, like around the chin. Like, oh, that hair is out of place. It's too long, and then I gotta go, and then I did too short, and I gotta even out the other one. It becomes a whole thing, and so I'm better off just either letting it all grow out or going completely all skin.
Oh my gosh! Only men understand this conversation because we've
Very
all been there. No, women do not understand the meticulousness that goes into some of our facial hair routines. It's so true.
And when I have band-aids all over the place, people are like, "What happened to you?" I'll be like, "Don't worry about it." What happened?
Right? Don't worry about it. Don't stop asking questions.
I sneezed while I was shaving. What do you want me to do?
No, the worst is if you're ever chewing gum and you're trying to shave. That's always a catastrophe.
Well, I don't know why anyone would ever do that to themselves. You're asking for
I've done that.
You're asking for a saw trap. It's a saw trap is what it is. Yeah.
I forgot I was chewing the gum one day. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God. Oh.
I'm a big
no.
gum chewer. Gum is like my cigarettes, okay, man? Like I chew gum like 3-4 times a day.
Fair enough. It's I guess it's a healthier habit for you than cigarettes would be for sure.
Well,
But
it's certainly healthier than cigarettes. Yeah, I can confirm that much. And my lungs are
definitely
pretty good
not healthy
condition.
to do while you're shaving. That's where you're getting into some danger. That's where you come into the office next day and Mike Gill's like, "Josh, why is your face covered in Band-Aids? I had an accident."
Why is there a huge bandage on the side of your neck?
That's right. Don't worry about it. Move on
Don't
to
ask
the next
questions. I was in a fight. See the other guy.
That's right.
At NBA Krell on the Twitter X platform. Austin Krell joined me today on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Maybe that's the future, is the Austin and Josh podcast. Maybe that's the future.
On shaving. We'll have like a whole segment on shaving and that we have a sponsorship. And
yeah, we'll get a sponsor and everything. Yeah, exactly. See,
we can't name any companies on the air because that's a violation. And there's no free pub here happening in 97.3 ESPN. But there are definitely some companies.
Unless somebody does want to do something on 97.3 ESPN, right. And Austin Krell is brought to you by.
That's right. That's right.
You know, one of those outlets. You know, we're open for business. You know, Austin's willing to take the banner ad.
That's right. The sponsor. I'll be sponsored by somebody.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a shaving product. You know, why not? Austin, I'll talk to you later.
See you, Josh.
All right, we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, Josh Hennick here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank. Yeah, anyone who's a shaving company, you want to sponsor our shaving conversation, let us know.
It's Carlin vs. Joe with Chris Carlin and Joe Fortenbaugh on 97.3 ESPN.
We loved him in Philadelphia. I say that because I'm a Philadelphia fan, and I was a huge fan of Jimmy Butler there. The fact that they went with Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons over Jimmy Butler is something everyone regrets. Do they regret that to the point where now they see a second opportunity and they make the mistake of saying, look, we got to correct that previous wrong?
It's Carlin vs. Joe with Chris Carlin and Joe Fortenbaugh. Weekdays from noon to 2 on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
If you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, AJ the Trade Man can get you released. MattBlattNissan.com. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Hey, Verizon customers, want the best in-home Wi-Fi? X marks the spot. Get Xfinity Gig Speed Internet for the lowest price ever, with unlimited data included, so you can stream, shop, chat, game, and work on all your devices, all at the same time. Now through June 24th, new customers can get Xfinity Gig Internet for only $30 a month for 12 months, with no annual contract, when you add one line of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited. For savings more than $800 over Verizon in your first year, X marks the spot. Switch to fast, reliable Xfinity Internet and bring on the good stuff. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Compares promotional pricing for Xfinity Gig Internet and one Xfinity Mobile Unlimited line versus Verizon Fios Gig Internet and one Welcome Plan line. After promo, regular rates apply. Gig Wi-Fi requires Xfinity Gateway. Actual speeds vary. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. Reduced speeds up to 30 gigabits of usage per line. Data thresholds may vary.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. Be 21.
Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson. Before they were legends, they were lost souls looking for their sound. Want to be a songwriter?
Not really. You are a songwriter.
Discover the true, untold story of Sue Brewer, the extraordinary woman behind outlaw country music, starring Mandy Moore and featuring T.J. Osborne.
They call it the Boar's Nest. It's just my apartment, but you never know who'll show up.
In a new scripted Audible original. Any advice?
Yeah, to steal something whiskey can't.
The Boar's Nest, Sue Brewer and the birth of outlaw country music. Listen on Audible.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the hot streak and the hot tubs. Go for a relaxing massage and for wild nights with your entourage. Go to play all day and to dance all night. Go for the rooms with the ocean views that go on forever. Go for paradise with a pair of dice. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older. Party responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plan starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
3, 2, 1.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
It's the third month of Matt Blatt Kia's 2 for $222. And this is the final month. 2 new Kias for $222. Brand new 2024 Kia Forte. Just $111 per month lease. With 0 security deposit. And just $39.95 due at signing. With a price like that, why not get 2 for $222? Have a job clearing $450 per week? We want to approve you today with 0 down and pay just 1.9% for 48 months on every clearly marked new Kia Sportage in stock. Or drive home 2 Kia Fortes for $222.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, 24 Sportage, $21.65 per thousand. Not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can't be combined. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KNF. 24 months, $111 per month, 10,000 miles per year. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 6/2/24. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and on
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
It's universal.
Can I get a root canal instead?
People strongly dislike the process of moving.
Please, anything but moving.
Because let's face it, it's hard. But if you've got to do it, make it as painless as possible.
Moving is a breeze with Clark's Moving and Storage. Use Clark's Moving and Storage for your next local or long-distance move. Visit Clark's Moving and Storage online at clarksmoving.net.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All right, we went a little long with Austin, but I promise I get to Jeff from Ocean City's text. Jeff said, am I the only one anxiously waiting to release the NFL schedule? Which road game is a higher probability of seeing the Eagles win, at New Orleans or at Tampa? From Jeff in Ocean City. Well, Jeff, I think it depends on how you view the Eagles' change of coordinators and their additions this offseason. If you view Vic Fangio and the additions of the new offensive coordinators as major upgrades for Philadelphia, then they should win both at Tampa and at New Orleans. if you look at the coordinators as that's not fixing the problems, and the Eagles didn't do enough this offseason to fix their defensive problems from last year, then they will lose at Tampa and they'll win at New Orleans. Either way, yeah, New Orleans is the more likely win. Again, it's all about perspective. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant or buying that new outfit from a local boutique. Those choices help to put money back into your community. Town Square Media South Jersey proudly puts a spotlight on local businesses.
First Bank of Sea Isle City, Cape May County's community bank. Philly Marble and the Philly Marble and Tile Outlet, Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City. Visit phillymarble.com. Jenkins Plumbing and Heating. Call Jenkins for heating and air conditioning installation, service and maintenance, plumbing, or drain cleaning service. 609-641-6440 or jenkinsplumbingandheating.com. The Nizams, authentic Indian cuisine. They are waiting to serve you. Dr. Lyle M. Back. For everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery, go to ilovelylback.com. And J&M Elite Contractors Roofing and Siding. Check out their great reviews at jmelitecontractors.com.
Thank you for supporting your local businesses from Town Square Media South Jersey.